If you've been journaling, reading books, listening to podcasts, repeating affirmations, but you're still finding yourself either triggered, anxious, doubting your self worth, this episode is for you because here's the truth: doing the work isn't always working how we want it to. And it has nothing to do with your capabilities, the feelings of being somehow broken or like there's something wrong with you. It's none of that. It is simply because you've been trying to heal your subconscious unknowingly with the tools that were really designed to work with the conscious mind. Now, thank you for joining the Be a Better You podcast. I am your host, Allison K. Dagney. I am a subconscious reprogramming expert, and I teach women how to rewire their subconscious minds for greater peace, to be able to change habits and behaviors, to feel worthy, to stand confident, and so many more things. So, what's coming up today is we're going to be talking about the truth about doing the work and why you're still stuck. And what I want you to know and take away from this episode is the real reason that you're getting stuck despite doing everything right, the hidden beliefs that actually make progress feel like it's impossible or that healing feels impossible. And I'm going to tell you some real stories of what it actually looks like versus what actually works, and then how to shift from moving from this like self-help space that somewhat is just a coping strategy to actually true subconscious changes and healing. So, if you are here, I want to say thank you for tuning in, and I just want to dive right into this. So, the first thing that we're going to talk about today is doing the work. Now, if you've heard me before, I have a very, very, very strong love of words, and I feel like that the words we use should be intentional, and I try really hard to use the right words when I am speaking. The work, quote unquote, work, is not a word I love to use, but I'm using it because a lot of people understand it and what that is. And healing does often feel like work. I tend to lean towards the word practice because it feels less heavy to me, and work has somewhat of a negative connotation for me personally. If it does for you too, then maybe you choose to use a different word like I do. If not, that's fine too. Now, here's the thing about doing the work. There is an illusion here that survivors of abuse, people who have been emotionally abused and who are no longer being abused, are often really high functioning, very intelligent, proactive, persistent kinds of people. They are highly motivated to do the things to help them heal. But the problem is their mind is running two conflicting programs. And the two parts of this are your conscious mind and your subconscious mind. The conscious mind is saying, I'm healing, I'm doing all the things, I'm making progress, I'm taking action, right? Because that's what you're able to consciously bring into your awareness. And the other is the subconscious. And this is something that runs under the surface. This is something that runs on autopilot. This is something you may or may not be aware of. And for those of you who are just tuning in for the first time, your subconscious mind has been programmed since the day you were born. So anything that you were taught, that you were witnessing, that you experienced in the form of traumas, anything that your teachers or your religious leaders told you, your culture, society, TV, all of these things are embedded deeply into your subconscious mind, and they make up your set of belief systems. That's why no two people are exactly alike, even people who are raised in the same home by the same parents in the same geographic location, right? Like, you may have siblings that are very, very different from you, and has a lot to do with the subconscious programming in each person. And essentially, when we have these two conflicting programs, they're arguing with each other. And so one is very, very strong. That's the subconscious. And the other is very, very weak. That is the conscious aspect or your willpower. So if you have read trauma recovery books, but you're still waking up with like a pit in your stomach to face the day, if you are somebody who writes gratitude lists and you practice gratitude, but you really don't feel grateful because of all the things you've been through and you're trying to like force it. Maybe you're doing affirmations all the time. You're telling yourself you're enough, but maybe you kind of flinch internally because you don't really believe it. There's a reason why. And next week, I will release an episode about why doing positive affirmations wrong is wasting your time. So I'd encourage you to tune into that. If you are journaling daily, but there's still that like inner voice that is nagging at you or criticizing you, different things like that. Like this is a real thing that happens to people who are doing the work. They're putting it all in and they're trying all the things, and just this noise in the background, or old habits surface, or old behaviors keep, reappearing. Okay, this is the illusion of like we're doing all the things, but then something's not changing, right? Maybe you understand your abuser's behavior logically, like they're disordered, they were delusional, they are abusive, right? All of that stuff. But then emotionally, maybe you're still clinging to this idea that you could have done something different, or that it was your fault, or that you were the problem. So if these things are happening to you, this is the illusion, right? Because you're putting in all the work, you're doing all the things, you're high functioning, intelligent, proactive, persistent. You're all of these amazing things, but your mind is still running these two opposite programs and they're fighting with each other. But the problem here is that the one that has the greatest strength is in the subconscious. And if you're not working in the subconscious mind, you truly are not working where all the power is at to change. Because here's the thing. When you're trying to heal, you may think that if I just had all the information, or if I just knew more, or if I just had, extra tasks to do, or ways that I can try to heal myself, right? That's the thing. Like more knowledge, more tools, like all this stuff isn't actually changing you on a root level. It is helping you cope with things. It might allow you some relief in the moment, and it is awareness, and that is a good thing. But real, true healing is happening when your body and your mind are finally in agreement, stating you are safe. It is okay. I am okay. I am safe. That's where the real healing happens. Not just in your mind, not just in your body, but when they are connected and you can find that safety together. So let's jump into why you might still feel stuck. And I have other episodes on this, but I'm going to take a different take on this today, because here's what's happening at the root. The subconscious mind is storing your emotional memories and protective patterns. It is keeping that in lock and key for you. Okay, so anything that you experienced, a traumatic event, something that was highly emotional that you recalled, was stored by your subconscious mind and also by your body. Okay, it's stored everywhere. And you end up not being able to think your way out of those things because they're automated. They happen so quickly when you get triggered, when you get worried, when you start ruminating, when you get a physical reaction to something that reminded you of the abuser, whatever that might be. If you try to think your way out of it, you will fail. You will absolutely fail, because like I said before, your mind and body are connected. So if you aren't working in both of those aspects to create that safety, and you're not working in the subconscious mind, then ultimately nothing's changing. So everything's going to keep repeating as it always has. The same reactions, the same trauma responses, the same protective patterns. Like it's all going to continue that same old way. And this is why often you can know better, like logically, this isn't real, or that wasn't my ex's car, it was someone else's, and I have nothing to be afraid of. But you still feel exactly the same as if it were. So part of this is, rewriting the story, but we have to do it on a root level. It can't be this surface level stuff. This healing at the root, there's something to it, because it's like, if you have weeds in your garden and you just chop them off, they're just going to keep coming back. You have to dig up the root to get rid of them for good. Okay? Now, oftentimes, like when you are stuck, and I hear this a lot, it's on my beliefs quiz, people say all the time, I'm stuck. And I've talked about this before, but stuck is just a state of being. It's not a permanent place for you. It is a temporary state of being, okay? You're not stuck forever. You're just temporarily feeling this feeling of being stuck, because you are in this holding pattern or this repetitive cycle like I was talking about before, because nothing is changing in your behavior. You're doing the same types of healing, quote unquote, and the tools and techniques. So of course you're going to get the same results. Until you do something different, you're not going to see different results. So common beliefs that people have when they are stuck are things like, if I just try harder, I will heal. Or if I read enough or listen enough, I'll eventually get some wisdoms or nuggets of truth or insights, and I'll just figure it out. Sometimes people believe that healing should feel empowering all the time. Not true. Some people believe, if I just do a lot of things or what other people think that I should do versus really trusting themselves, then they will find healing there. But again, not true. And I can bust these myths, because it's real easy to see if you've been somebody who's trying really, really hard and you aren't feeling like you're healing. That's proof right there, right? You're trying harder. Have you ever heard this thing, work smarter, not harder? I'm sure you've heard that, right? Because guess who works really hard? A dog digging a hole, right? A hamster on a hamster wheel, right? They're working really, really hard, right? But really not going anywhere. So you have to work smarter, not harder. And by smarter, I mean doing something different that you've never done before, giving something else a try that maybe no one has ever done, or that you've not experienced, or might seem a little bit unusual or difficult, and give it a try. I'll bust the myth that if I read enough or listen enough, I'll figure it out. You could spend your whole life reading and listening. Here's how I know that this does not work. Because if I gave you a manual that said, this will tell you everything you need to know to be able to fly an airplane. And then you read the book and you study it and you study it and you study it for years. Like you could study it for every day for years. And then I tell you, and you feel like you know everything about flying airplanes. All right, get behind the plane, or get behind the steering of the plane and take off. I guarantee you, you will not have a successful flight. You've never flown a plane, okay? So reading and listening is not enough. You have to practice it. You have to be actively in it, right? It's not just reading the manual and then being able to take off. And then, this myth that healing should feel empowering all the time, right? That is something that will sabotage you, because at the first instance of not feeling empowered or not feeling good, or maybe you're crying, or you're feeling negative, or you're feeling like that you've hit a brick wall, whatever that might be. Well, if you believe that healing should feel empowering all the time, and then those things happen to you, you're going to believe that you're not healing. But that's not true. I mean, if you think about it, when you are working out at the gym, right? It doesn't always feel good. In fact, even afterwards, often you might be in a lot of pain. You might be sore. And there's no difference in this and the healing work that you're doing for yourself. It's not always going to feel good. That's how we build muscle at the gym. We have to tear things open in our actual muscle fibers so that new muscle can be built to grow. And it's similar to how we're doing the emotional work and the emotional healing. So if you're believing that it should be good or it should feel good or it should be like these breakthroughs and insights constantly and you're not having that happen, you're going to make that mean something about you, that you don't know what you're doing, you're not ever going to heal, you're failing constantly. Hey friend, I want to take a quick pause here because if you've been listening and realizing you're ready for real healing, not just tips, you need to know about my Radiate and Rise community. Inside the community, we meet 4 times a month for live 1-hour coaching calls that are fully focused on healing work. You can even get coached on your personal situation right there in the call when we have no cameras required, and you can even use a fake name if that feels safer to you. You will also get 4 healing activities every month that you can do at your own pace if you choose to, plus a private off Facebook space where you can connect with me and other survivors who truly understand what you're going through. Members even get bonuses, discounts, and freebies. They get access to my emotional resonance library with powerful audio healing tracks and my full EFT, which is the emotional freedom technique tapping library, with 28 guided videos to help you calm your mind and release old emotions. All of this is just $44 a month and you can cancel anytime, but the price does go up to $55 on December 1st. So if you've been thinking about getting real support before the new year, this is your moment. So just go to my website at www.radiate.rise.com and you will find it there. Or you can tap the link in the show notes and come heal with us. Right? But that's just not true. It's actually proof that you are healing. Okay? Now, as far as doing things that other people suggest or give ideas for you to do to heal, I'm not saying you shouldn't explore those things. I think you should, but I don't think you should force yourself to do things just because other people are doing them and swear by them. I'll give you a great example. I do not like breath work. Breath work is not something I enjoy. Some people swear by it and love it. And when I tell people I don't like it who like it, they look at me like I've got 3 heads. And I'm like, it's not for me. So what good is it doing me to force myself to do something like that when it really doesn't support my growth? It doesn't help me. And in fact, it can also cause me to go into a panic attack. So that is actually taking steps backwards, right? So even though other people are saying, oh, this is great, you should do this, it's amazing, I loved it, blah, 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 right? We'll give it a try, sure. But don't feel like you have to force yourself into doing something that doesn't actually work. The best example that I have about this is jumping into therapy right after my abusive relationship. And I got into therapy immediately because that's what you do when you are struggling emotionally. You go to a therapist, right? That's the societal norm. You jump into working with a therapist. And I did that. And I did it for 4.5 years. And I went almost every single week. But I kept thinking to myself, why do I keep getting triggered? Why do I keep feeling this way? Why is nothing changing? I've been here for 4.5 years. What the literal heck is happening? Why is nothing changing? Okay? And of course, I went by the societal norms. You need to be in therapy. And it wasn't working for me. So I'm like, what am I doing? I'm just spending all my time, my money, my energy doing something that wasn't changing me. And you know the definition of an insanity, right? Continuing to do the same thing over and over and over and expecting a different result. Well, that's what I felt like. And I was really frustrated. So I even had one client say to me that she could coach herself through things, through the different thoughts. She could actually talk herself through it and help herself. But ultimately, and in the moment she would feel okay, but it ultimately didn't change how she felt either. So even if you're doing that too. Like in the moment, you're able to kind of catch yourself and kind of shift in your mindset. But then the same things happen over and over again, right? All this is, and it was the same for her, is a sign that your subconscious mind just hasn't caught up yet. So you maybe have that conscious awareness, but it's not really changing anything at the root. You may have trimmed off the weed, but you haven't yanked it at the root. So these are examples of why that stuckness state of being is where you might be at. And here's the thing, like this is a thought I had, like you can clear clutter all day long, right? Like if your house is messy, you can clear the clutter. You can patch the inside walls. You can paint and make it look pretty, like all the things, right? But if the foundation of your house is crumbling, right, you're never going to feel stable. You're never going to feel secure. And so like surface level healing feels like that. It's like Band-Aids, it's coping, all of these things. It's like, no, I do not accept. I do not accept surface level healing. I do not agree. I will not accept that for myself, right? Some people are fine with coping. That's your choice if that's you. I am not okay with that. I was not okay with that after feeling like I was banging my head up against a wall for 4.5 years. And I'm not saying my therapist didn't help me. She was a good therapist. I wouldn't have kept going back if I didn't like being with her. And she did help me a lot. But again, still getting triggered, still getting upset, still spinning out, still ruminating, like all the things. There was no solution to that. I felt really good in her office, like venting and talking about my problems and connecting all the, deep, psychological issues from my childhood to adulthood. Like all that was really interesting, but it wasn't changing me. That was the problem. Okay? So let me shift over to what doing the work really means. Again, I don't love the word work, but you know what I mean, like putting in effort towards your healing. That's really what I'm talking about here. When we're talking about healing from emotional abuse, okay, there are some key things that are part of this, and that is safety, repetition, and subconscious reprogramming, okay? That to me is what doing the work is. You need to feel safe first and foremost. So if you're in an emotionally abusive relationship currently, please start making your safe exit plan, okay? And by plan, I don't mean just like one day hopping out of bed and grabbing your things and your kids and running out the door. You may have to do that if you are in a situation that your safety or your children's safety is an immediate danger, okay? That you have to do. But if you are in a place where you're like, I'm being emotionally abused, I need to start figuring out how I'm going to get out of here, and you have some time, then make a plan. Don't do this in a whim. Like actually plan it, okay? Safety is number one. Safety for you, whether you're in the relationship or out of it, right? You can't heal if you feel unsafe. Your nervous system has to feel safe. Your environment should feel safe. The people around you should be safe people, right? So all of this has to be part of the equation. Repetition is just these habits for our brain, okay? So doing the work means taking action. If you are not taking action, you will not get results. And every person who signs up with me to work with me in my one-on-one program, I am very transparent with them. And I say, you're going to have to commit to 10 minutes a day or 15 minutes every other day to put in some work over the course of the 4 months that we're together. And for the people who are not committed or not ready or don't feel like that's doable, that's fine. Those people are not going to be in my program. And that's okay. I'm not for everybody. But repetition, no matter what you're doing, is key because you are putting in practice so that your brain starts to learn a new you, essentially. Like, this is who I am. For instance, I'll give you an example. Every single day, I get up out of my bed, I get dressed, and I go downstairs. I make myself a protein breakfast, a high protein breakfast, and a coffee because I never skip my coffee. And I go into my office and I do some spiritual and mental, emotional healing work, quote unquote work, practice, whatever you want to call it. Every day. I do this like a religion, okay? And I had to start somewhere. I didn't always do this my whole life, right? But one day I decided I needed some repetition and some consistency when it came to my own mental health. So that's what I do. You don't have to do it my way, but you do have to have some sort of action, some sort of repetition that you rely on. That is going to be what changes you. It's the same way, and I use this analogy of going to the gym, right? If you aren't repeatedly going to the gym and repeatedly lifting weights, you will not get stronger. Okay? This is no different. Okay? So the safety is number one, repetition is number two, and rewiring on a subconscious level. And again, next week I'm going to talk about affirmations, why they don't work, why you're doing them wrong. And you're wasting your time if you're doing them wrong and you're not talking to the subconscious mind. So I think you're going to love that episode. But when we're talking about subconscious reprogramming and rewiring your brain, we are talking about all the things that you believe, okay? The subconscious is just a bunch of beliefs. That's it. So when you're like, what's in my subconscious? It's your belief system. That's it. So the easiest way to find out what you believe on a subconscious level is to ask yourself questions. You can ask any question that you want, and ultimately it's going to give you some sort of answer. What I would typically do first is start with an emotion. And whatever that emotion is, ask yourself, what am I thinking about when I'm feeling this emotion? That's it. That's super easy. So next time that you feel an emotion, ask yourself that. What am I thinking when I'm feeling this way? Okay, not what am I feeling, because you already know that. I'm feeling sad. I'm feeling worried. I'm feeling afraid. I'm feeling, anxious. I'm feeling shame. I'm feeling guilt. So I'm feeling those feelings, but what are you thinking? That is the question. And when you write these things out, you'll start to see your subconscious mind unfold right before your eyes. Okay? So that is really a big aspect of doing the work. So you have to really engage your body, your emotions, and your subconscious mind. Okay? Not just the thoughts that are running through your mind. Okay? Because like thoughts could be ruminating things, right? We have to get to the root of the ruminating things. Those are the thoughts, right? You're thinking about your ex and the new partner and what they're doing, and if he's living his best life, or if she's off, having so much fun without you now, whatever that might be, right? So those are just the thoughts. But often the subconscious part is the meaning that you're giving to the thoughts. So whatever meaning that you're making, well, that is what's living in your subconscious, and that is what is causing you to feel that way. So if we don't check those things, we can't change them. And if we can't change them, then we're going to just keep repeating how we're feeling. And if you're listening to this podcast, I'm going to go ahead and assume you want to stop feeling ways that you've been feeling. You want to be happy. You want to be content. You want to be indifferent. You want to enjoy your life. You want to be excited. You want to be hopeful. You want to be motivated. I know this because I've lived it. Okay? The part about reprogramming, though, in the work of reprogramming, it does take consistency. It takes gentleness. And it takes patience, right? We don't jump out of bed and run a marathon in one day. It takes practice. So what doing the work really means is practice. It means consistency. It means safety. And it means tapping into the subconscious mind. So let's talk about some examples of real work that actually works, okay? These are things that I do. These are things that I encourage my clients to do. And I also encourage people in my community to do. So number one is learning to notice and pause when you're triggered instead of reacting. And this takes practice. This isn't something that you probably can do like immediately. It takes some intention and practice. So practice the pause, right? Before you say anything, before you do anything, you have to find there's like a gap between when you have an emotion and you have a reaction or response to that emotion. And in that little gap is where your subconscious beliefs are firing and you aren't even aware of it. So that's where you have to pause and ask yourself, that's why I said before, here's my feeling. What am I thinking? This takes some practice. Another thing is practicing somatic grounding. Okay. So this is like your body, like paying attention to your body, feeling where these emotions show up in your body instead of just analyzing what happened, right? Actually being present in your body. A lot of people skip over this. They don't think about where emotions are settling inside their bodies. It could be your shoulders, it could be your neck, it could be in your gut, in your tips of your fingers, to your feet, to your toes, your legs, your knees, your pain in your hips, your lower back, right? Like these are things that you have to get into the practice of too, is noticing and being centered. So the next time that you have an emotion, I'd really encourage you to one, practice the pause like I said, but two, try to locate the feeling. People don't realize like emotions aren't just these like things floating around your head. They're in your body. You have to figure out where they are, okay? And just notice it and be present with it. And then obviously what I'm going to talk about forever and ever until the day I die is reprogramming your subconscious mind and the beliefs that you're carrying. Things like, I'm not good enough. I'm not safe. I can't do it. Healing's too hard. It's impossible, right? These are things that need to be reprogrammed. And when I say reprogrammed, like there's ways that I teach my clients how to do this one-on-one with a very simple 4-step process. But a way that I can tell you right now outside of that container is to question it. Just question it. Is this true? And sometimes you'll be like, yes, it is true, Allison. Like, you don't understand. It is true. Okay, I get that because I've been there too, and I've thought the same things. But you have to stretch your brain. This is where my expertise comes in because sometimes clients are like, I have no idea. Like, I can't think of any other possibility. And I'm just like, what about this? And they're like, oh. I'm like, what about that? And they're like, oh. I have so many clients that I've worked with over the years that I've been doing this. I have an arsenal of possibilities because when my clients are sharing their possibilities, I'm earmarking and remembering those too. So not only am I able to pull from my own experiences, but I'm able to pull from other people's and share those with my clients who might be struggling to see other possibilities. So if you're like, oh, I don't even know where to begin. Well, I'm your person. Just schedule a call with me and we can talk about it. Another example of work that works is allowing yourself to feel your emotions, to cry, to release, to get angry. I've talked about this on other podcasts, but like really feeling your emotions is so important because the more you stuff them, the more you put them in a closet or shove them under a rug, the more they're just going to build, and they're going to cause physical problems. They're going to cause emotional problems, relationship problems. They have to be addressed. They cannot be ignored. Okay. So doing that kind of work actually works too. So learn to practice the pause, do some somatic check-ins and finding out where these emotions are in your body. Start practicing reprogramming your own thoughts by shifting your old mindsets to different possibilities and then allowing yourself to feel, like actually feel your emotions. So just a reminder, you're not going to just like think your way out of these things or, use your willpower or stay busy and just push these things away. Like you actually have to feel through these things. And when you use these kinds of tools like subconscious reprogramming tools, it makes it so much easier and so much faster. So if you've been doing all the work and you hear yourself in some of the things that I'm saying and you're still feeling stuck, please don't beat yourself up over this. It's not your fault. It just means that your healing maybe needs to take a different route. Maybe you need to try something different, or maybe go a little bit deeper where it feels a little scary, but get some support along the way. And that's where safe community and subconscious work come together. I'd really like to talk about what happens when you stop forcing your healing and stop forcing the work, and you actually just start healing at the level that your mind operates at and what's best for you. And before I jump into that, I just want you to think about what actually happens when you keep repeating these same old patterns and you do remain in this state of stuckness too long. Because like I said, it's temporary, but if you're there for an extended period of time, it can bring problems. You might believe that you're the problem. You might think that there's something wrong with you. You might actually think, well, maybe it is me. Maybe it is my problem because, that's what my abuser told me all the time. And like, they're off doing great and I'm over here and I'm so stuck. Maybe it was my fault, right? And it's not your fault. You were abused. But this is what happens when you're in that state of stuckness for too long. You start believing it. Maybe you're nodding your head right now like, yeah. You end up losing hope because you think, oh, well, healing just doesn't work for me. Well, nothing works for me. I'm just not meant to ever get over this. I guess it'll be like this forever, right? That's a very, very, very depressing outlook. And it doesn't have to be yours. And another thing, you might start comparing yourself to other people, and comparison, of course, you've heard this, is the thief of joy, right? So if you're like, oh, well, look how much further they're ahead of me, or look how much healing work they've done, and look how well they're doing. Like, I must be inherently broken because you're comparing yourself to other people. Again, not true. It just may be, one, they have a different trauma than you, they have different experiences, different belief systems, and maybe they've done different kinds of healing, right? And then lastly, you end up like in this cycle between like guilting yourself for not being where you want to be and burning yourself out trying harder to be where you want to be. So you're like, oh, I should be trying harder. And so you do. But then when you burn out, you're not trying hard anymore, quote unquote, and you're resting, and then you're guilting yourself because you're not doing enough. And you're in this like perpetual downward spiral. So all of these things are really, really harmful when you're in this state of stuckness because it just compounds over top of you. It's a heavy weight. And I've heard people say like that healing feels like a full-time job. Like it feels like it's all I'm doing, right? And you end up exhausted. And one of my clients said this exact same thing to me because she had done so many different things. And she was like a professional healer, literally. Like, I don't mean like she was healing other people. I mean like that was her job. Like she was doing everything she possibly could to try to heal herself. And she came to me and it was like just another one of the things. Like in her mind, it was almost like, okay, let me just add this to the things that I'm learning how to do to heal. This is my quote unquote job to heal. But when we started working together, what she realized that she was trying to manage her pain through all the things that she had been doing before instead of actually healing it. She didn't realize, like she thought she was trying to heal, but she was actually just trying to manage the symptoms, cope with the pain, right? All while like desiring deeply to heal. But once we got to the root of it, everything shifted and she stopped feeling so anxious all the time. She started to feel more at ease within herself and like that she didn't have to keep doing all these hundreds of things that she had just like added to her plate. So if you've been doing this and you've been adding to your plate and having all these extra things and you still don't feel that freedom or that peace, it's not because you're failing. Please hear me loud and clear. You are not a failure. It's because you don't know how to rewire your subconscious mind yet. But you're learning, and give yourself some credit for that because you're here listening. And maybe you're one of the people who've listened to a lot of these episodes. You take notes, you put these suggestions and tips into action. And I'm so, so proud of you for doing that. Right? And you should be proud of yourself for doing that too. This is not very simple stuff. It can be very complex, like a spider web or like layers of an onion. And we have to be brave to look at the things that we don't want to look at, face our shadows, be aware of our own mistakes, accept ourselves for who we truly are without judgment, right? That takes a lot of bravery. And I'm really proud of you for being here and listening, and especially listening I know I say a lot of words. I love to be here and talk to you guys. And I really do hope that you get value in what I'm saying. Okay, so I said I wanted to, help you understand what happens when you stop forcing and like start healing at your level. And I think part of this is shifting from like doing all the things, from information collection, knowledge, like all of that, to true transformation. Okay? And here's the thing. When you stop trying to force things, it's like riding a wave, right? If you go out into the ocean, you're swimming. I don't know if you've ever surfed or you get into the ocean, but like if you go out and you're like trying to fight a wave, like swim into it and fight it, you are going to lose every time. So ride the wave in, let it bring you in. Okay? That's where the transformation for you will happen, when you allow it to be easy instead of struggling. So here's some practical things that you can do. And if you want to take notes, you certainly can. But if you're driving or on a walk, obviously, just take note of this in your mind. You have to try to stop fixing every symptom. Okay? That is not realistic. So if you're getting triggered, if you're ruminating, if you're depressed, if you're sad, if you get defensive, if you are yelling, if you are getting aggravated, like whatever it is, right? Those are symptoms. Those are symptoms of a deeper problem. And no, the problem isn't that you were emotionally abused. Yes, it is a problem, but that's not what I mean. That's not the root of the problem. The root of the problem is not that you were emotionally abused. That is the reason that you have the problem you have, but it's not the root of it. The root of it is that you have beliefs tied to whatever it is that happened to you, whatever it is that you see in the world, however you perceive things should be. That is the root. So instead of trying to fix all of your symptoms, you got to get to the root. You've got to start at the root. Okay? And the root is figuring out, like I said before, ask yourself questions. When I'm feeling this way, what am I thinking? That is the root. That is actually the root. Okay? I'm telling it to you plain as day. Like, I'm just giving it to you. If you want to know where the root of your subconscious is, it's your thinking. The thinking that happened right before whatever emotional response that you had. Okay? So, choose tools that get to the subconscious. If you're not using my tool that I use, which is rapid reprogramming, use a different one. Use EFT, emotional freedom technique. That gets to the subconscious too. Maybe subconscious audio work. That will do it too. I've heard of these other ones called the rapid rewire method. I don't know anything about it, but it probably gets to the subconscious somehow. Okay? I'm not saying my way is the only way. You got to go with what you feel called to, but I definitely think we should be working in that 95%. If we have 95 of you versus 5 of you in a tug of war, the 95 of you is always going to win. And if that 95 is saying things like, you're no good, you can't do it, you're not good enough, you aren't smart enough, you'll never heal, right? If that's what's happening in the 95, well, what do you think the outlook's going to be? Even if the 5% is going, You can do it. I believe in you. I know you're good enough. We got to change what's in the subconscious. It's never going to win. Never going to win. Okay? And then you have to let yourself get supported by other people who have been there, who understand. I'm not saying this has to be me. It doesn't have to be my community. It needs to be, you could get it in a Facebook group. You could get it in a meetup group. You could get it in AA groups, church groups, wherever you feel called. That is important. That's how you're going to get out of this state of stuckness, right? And I talked about this on the last episode about healing in isolation and why that is a problem. And this is part of this, okay? And then again, check in with your body. You have to start getting used to what it feels like to be in your body. A lot of times we are not in our bodies when we're being abused. We are numbing out. We don't feel what we need to feel. And we do that because it's a trauma adaptation to try to keep us safe in the moment. Our body and mind are just trying to protect us, okay? So learn to listen to your body, learn to listen to your thoughts. Both very, very important. So just reminding you, like, you don't need more podcasts. Do I appreciate you listening to my podcast? Yes, 100%. And please share it with other people who could benefit from it, who you know in your life, who you know needs to hear this message, okay? But you don't need more of that stuff. You don't need more books. You don't need all these extra things. You need something that gets to the part of your mind that got programmed to believe that you're unsafe, that you're no good, that you can't heal, that you'll never make it, that everybody else has it better than you, that you shouldn't struggle this way, that life is horrible, whatever that might be. That's what you need. You need to get there. You need to get to what reaches that part of you, because that's the root. That's how we change our lives. That's how we become the best versions of ourselves. So doing the work, as I said before, quote unquote work. I'm sorry I keep saying that, but I just hate that word, but I'm using it because I know you know what I mean. It's not enough if your subconscious beliefs haven't shifted. So doing the work is like shoveling snow in a snowstorm if you're not getting to the root, right? Because you're essentially just putting in all this effort for something that's not really changing you. It's not transforming you. It might feel good in the moment, and that's good. And I'm not saying you shouldn't do things that make you feel good. You should. Like if you like doing yoga, great. If you like doing breath work, great. If you like doing, I like doing those things too, and I do them. But here's the thing. Those things enhance my life experience. The thing that changed me, like truly changed me, was getting to the subconscious. And you can't outthink pain that lives in the body. That's important to know. That's why I always say, like, go back to the somatics. Check in with your body. Where are you feeling these things? You can't outthink that. It's just not possible. And real transformation, like truly, truly real change, is going to happen when you feel safe, when you do things repetitively, like create those new habits, because those habits are automatic in your brain, and so you have to create new habits in your brain, and getting to the subconscious. If this episode hit home for you and you realize that you've been trying to do the work without getting real results, and maybe this has been going on for some time for you, I'd love to invite you to book a free root cause call with me. In this call, it's a Zoom call, private call, we're going to uncover some of your subconscious beliefs that are keeping you stuck. And I'm going to show you what the theme is that I see, and if there are any patterns that I'm hearing. And then I'm going to give you guidance on a path forward on what I think would serve you best, how I think this could help you, or if my community would help you, or if I think something else would help you. I'm going to be honest with you and tell you exactly what I think. And you can find the link in the show notes, or you can go to my website. There's a bar right at the top that says you can book your free call. It's www.radiate.rise.com. So don't keep doing all the work that keeps you tired and exhausted. Do the thing that can actually set you free. I just want to thank you again for being here. You've done so much work, but if it hasn't been working for you, maybe it's time to think about doing something a little different. I appreciate you, and I'll talk to you next week.